Hola! Hope everybody is doing well. We're here for our midweek alchemy message where we are unpacking the work of this week's lessons that our soul is taking us through. So, from the Wild Unknown Alchemy deck, we've got the Magnum Opus, or the Great Work. We have Summer. And we have Quicksilver, which is also Mercury. Underneath Magnum Opus, we have the Queen of Pentacles. Underneath Summer, we have Eight of Pentacles. Underneath Quicksilver, we have Five of Swords. All right, so this is a really interesting message that is continuing the theme of the week with perfect continuity. The energy of this week has to do with the accumulation of our past lives and our karma, and the realization of that within this particular week, but within this lifetime as well. So the Magnum Opus, or the Great Work, is talking directly about the fact that our soul, we take the same soul lifetime through lifetime after lifetime after lifetime, and we're always working on the soul contract for that soul. We are doing everything that we can once we are awakened and conscious of the work and the assignment in this life to correct for the darkness of each of our souls. We all come from the source soul of Adam. Adam as in Adam and Eve, Adam. The root soul of all mankind. And so from that, we all have that connection to the original fall of our consciousness and that separation from the light of the Creator. That was like our ultimate root work, that the ego pulled a veil of separation that divided our perfect whole unity with our Creator and our full consciousness connected with that. So now our soul goes through a process and a journey, lifetime after lifetime, to attempt to reawaken and reconnect to that original sacred union, that sacred marriage with God, and our soul joined without the veil in between that keeps us forgetful of our full divinity and our full humanity and the spectrum of all of that realized into its fullness. And so every lifetime we come here with a set, like a set of baggage, matching luggage, and it has all of these issues that we are given on purpose to be imperfect and come here and realize our imperfections and then say, oh, wow, I want to be more like the Creator. I want to not only reveal these things to myself so that I can put an end to my own pain and suffering and live fully in my full capacity, but I also don't want to add any more death and pain and suffering into the world. So I want to change not only for myself, but on behalf of others, for the sake of others as well. So, each life, all of our actions are weighed. Are you adding good to the world? Are you adding darkness to the world? Are you adding to the scale on the side of light? Are you adding to the scale on the side of dark? And so our actions and the way that we transform and change our heart and our consciousness and our soul through each life affect the weight of the scale. And so when we do positive actions, that puts light into our spiritual bank account. But when we do negative actions, that takes light out of our spiritual bank account. And so depending on where we are through the collection of lifetimes of how much dark and light we have put in, we may be paying off a deficit. We may be paying off credit card debt. And so what goes around comes around kind of thing is the fact that like we are this week sort of realizing our, like, do you see how the Queen of Pentacles is looking back, like kind of on her life, or at least the way it looks like when I'm looking at the photo, and we'll have the photo at the end of the video. Or you can see it on the posts page of the channel. You can see the photo layout, but it looks like she's like looking back on her life. And it's not even just this one physical lifetime, but it's these multiple lifetimes, looking back on the span of the eternity of her soul and the summation of the work and her good deeds and her failures and her shortcomings. But the accumulation of all of this has become the great opus of awakening in us wisdom and understanding. When wisdom is joined with understanding, we understand the meaning of it all. We understand the hidden wisdom in the sacred text of the Torah. We understand the sacred wisdom and the way that the parts and pieces and the patterns are playing out in the cosmos. It's like we have this awareness. We get glimpses of this, but this truth is eternal within our soul. So we are every lifetime coming back, trying to do what we can to correct and to tip the scales, hopefully, in the side of good. But when we are going through challenges and pain, these are the things that help us correct for that negativity that we have put out into the world. And so what we might be feeling or experiencing might seem unfair, but it is just on some degree. It's just that we don't know what the origin or what lifetime we might have earned this unpleasantness. So sometimes it seems unrelated, and sometimes things come back around in this lifetime, but they don't necessarily hit you in the same sector that you made that you fouled up in, right? That you committed the cosmic crime. And so you may have committed a cosmic crime in the sector of relationship, but then you may have to pay the consequence in the realm of money, or something in that realm, or health, or whatever. It might be seemingly unrelated, but either way, everything is happening for a reason, for a purpose, and because of a reason and because of a purpose, and it serves a reason and it serves a purpose. So this particular week in the scale and on the cycle of the cosmos, where we take our trip around the sun and we have our corresponding Torah, this week's portion, Mishpatim, we talked about it last night, and I was like, I can't remember the name or where it is. So it's from Exodus, and it's laws. It means laws, and we're talking about the spiritual laws of the universe here. And so this week we have a particular opening and opportunity to have a glimpse into, like, a revelatory insight into what our karma has been about and what our life's purpose has been for, and how our experiences have shaped us, and how our actions have affected and shaped others. And so it's like we're starting to see it more clearly, and the patterns are starting to become more clear. And that is also helping us detach from the actual bind, that the bondage that the ego has had on us, keeping us in this illusion. Now remember, we are in the time of preparing for the Exodus. We are approaching Passover, and coming in the spring. And so it's like this time of year we prepare the soul to leave Egypt. Now, what does that mean? It means the Israelites had to suddenly make their exodus, and they didn't have a lot of time. They had to leave in 18 minutes. They had 18 minutes to decide, are you going to be an Israelite and follow God, or are you going to stay here in slavery and bondage in the ways of Egypt? And so they had to leave before the bread had time to rise. Now that's literal in the way that they had to be quick and hurry. And that is symbolic. And on a spiritual level, the spiritual technology level here, was that the The yeast in the bread expands the bread. It fluffs up the bread. The yeast, like unleavened bread, you eat unleavened bread on Passover. It doesn't cause the bread to rise. It doesn't puff the bread out, so the bread becomes flat. Well, this represents the ego, how the ego expands and it puffs us up. And so the illusion of the ego is going to give us pride and justification and fear and doubt and insecurity and indecision, whatever it can do to slow us down and prevent us from making that choice that we have to do instantaneously to be able to make that exodus in the 18 minutes, make that 18-minute window. It points back to that divine obedience and swiftness of not being spiritually lazy, but when you are guided to take action, or you're guided in a direction, to be swift and to be decisive and use your not just be living in autopilot in effect consciousness, but actually be that cause consciousness, using sovereignty, breaking free of autopilot and fears and patterns and limiting beliefs, and following what your spiritual guidance, your spirit is telling you what to do. And so historically, only 20% of the Israelites actually joined the Exodus and left slavery. And the others stayed behind and were just lost to the Jewish people forever and just were absorbed by Egyptian culture. So that's so interesting that, you imagine this, like everyone left, but not a lot of people decided to stay in bondage. Well, how many people decide to awaken and go through that process? And that's messy work, right? The healing process, looking at the self, awakening to the truth of the self, facing the self, taking responsibility for the self. It's not easy. It does give you sovereignty. It does liberate you from your fears and your consciousness and the dominion that others in the world system has over us. Sorry, I have almond skins coming out of my teeth. I ate chocolate covered almonds right before I started. So when we see the facade crumble and we see the ego can be so seductive, and it can sound really good and it can sound really comfortable to stay with the devil that we know. And it can project all of these things that sound realistic. But when you get past the facade of the ego, you're like, oh, this is not appealing at all. It's actually weak, it's unattractive, and it's not desirable. And so you then are like, oh, I can actually see this path and this consciousness and this behavior, and it does not make me feel good. It is not desirable. I want nothing to do with it. And so you can pull back that veil and choose instead to go the route of the higher self and be led by the voice of the Holy Spirit that's guiding you into a wilderness that you don't know what to expect, but you will be provided for and you will be protected by that act of faith and that continued act of faith. You will be guided by a pillar of fire by night and a pillar of smoke by day, and you will be given manna for the day. And you will be given remedy for the illness. And when you are in absolute wholeness, you will need no remedy because everything will be whole. And so at this moment, it's like, here's the summer, which is the fruition, right? The maturity of the growing season. This is where you see what you've got, right? What is your harvest? What is the fruits of your labor, right? Summer is coming into the fullness. It's coming into this vitality, this realization. Everything's coming into bloom. And so what is the fruit of the apprentice but understanding, knowledge, wisdom, experience, right? The apprentice has been working on their special skill, their special talent, their special gifts. And so if their life's karma and the great work of all of their lifetimes and their life purpose is leading them to this moment, then this is like the student, this is like the fruit of the student's effort. It's like, this is what we've learned and this is what we're integrating. And so by integrating this consciousness, this is going to determine what the path forward is going to look like for us, right? We are in this moment teetering between fate and destiny. And your fate is like when you're born with the stars in a certain configuration, and so that determines your natal chart. So your natal chart is a snapshot of your life and the trajectory of your life and your fate. If you don't do any work on yourself, if you just passively go through life on autopilot, you don't awaken, you just are who you are and you don't transform, that is most likely your fated path. That's the hand that you're dealt. Now, what you do with that hand that you are dealt, it's not that this natal chart is to determine you and to tell you fatalistically who you are and what you will become, but it is to give you an outline of your life that you can work with, and you can work on certain areas and you can fill in the story from there. And so we are given our natal chart to show us our specific assignments and what we need to work on and what our strengths are and what our weaknesses are. And so we want to enhance our strengths and share them. We also want to transform and heal our weaknesses and our darkness as well and transform them, and they add in to our gifts to share. So the work of transformation is lifelong. It's never done, and it carries over life after life after life. So we're never truly there. So if you're sitting here thinking like, oh, I'm working on my life's work, on my magnum opus, like I'm pretty much like awakened and, I've transcended my ego. It's like, well, you are setting yourself up for a nice big fall. I hate to tell you. So humility is the key, and devotion and consistency and self-sacrifice. But something is happening to where the fruit of everything that you've been working for will be revealing itself soon. I think that we are going to see a real shift and a real exponential growth spurt. Mars is going direct soon. So if you're like me and you're thinking, what more can I throw at this thing? I'm doing everything I can, and nothing, it's just everything is so halted. Things are going to be moving forward with a lot more steam and momentum. It's like we're in a slingshot right now, and Mars in retrograde is pulling this tension back to all your effort, and you're trying to go forward, you're trying to run, and everything's pulling you like a rubber band. And when Mars goes direct, it's like the bow of Sagittarius is going to be released, and all of that momentum is going to be on your side. So we have the Quicksilver, which is interesting because Mercury is fluid, and it's both a metal and it's both a liquid, right? It's Quicksilver, so it moves around all slippery and fast. Just like the Israelites, right? They had to be quick. If we hesitate, that gives the ego time to come in and whisper its little tricks of illusion, of tempting you with lusts of control and greed and what's in it for me, and it's not going to work out anyway, this is fool's gold, blah, 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 all those stories that the ego gives you, projections, prejudices, tit for tat, that's this, what's in it for me, all of that, me and mine are okay, so that's all I care about, all of that. The ego gets in there in that space. So we have to be quick to act on the Spirit's guidance before it is tarnished, before it's exposed to that humidity, right? That eats away at the metal. So Mercury in this card talks about being really connected with the other realms, with the threshold between realms, with the veil is thin, right, for this person between material and non-material, between the unmanifest and the manifest, between the portal of the worlds of life and death, from dream and reality. We're in Pisces season right now, so that whole essence is very amplified right now. And this is now a definite time for people who have gifts of shamanism to be activated and to be working with that shamanism in your meditation and in the dream state, going in between the realms, going back in time, doing the healing on that inner child. You know what, even you can pray for the people that you love and go back in time and try to intervene and pray with their inner children. So, if you have a parent, say you have a very difficult father and they had a very difficult childhood, maybe if you have a picture of them, like I have a picture of my dad as a little boy, and to look at that picture, it just breaks my heart because he looks like he's trying to be so proud and so strong, and you can just see the sadness and the fear and the insecurity behind that strong outer facade, and it just breaks my heart. And so no matter how I feel about my dad, the man that he chooses to be, sometimes I can look at that picture and understand his origin story. And so with that love in my heart and those intentions on a soul level, in prayer and in meditation, I can go back in time and try to intercept and intervene with him in those moments in his early childhood, maybe before difficult things happen to him, and maybe during the time and after, to try to be there to soothe and to reparent and to comfort that inner child. And maybe, just maybe, that can bypass their adult walls, because we can have an effect on people remotely, heart to heart, soul to soul. And so if we start getting really intentional with our prayers and our healing, we respect people's free will. We don't want to do anything that violates their free will, but to try to pray for the souls of the ones we love in the spirit of love, in the spirit of healing. I think that is supported. I believe that to be supportive, and it could open the possibility for a physical conversation, but either way, it spiritually lays the groundwork for them remotely. So the veils are thinner right now, and so we have access to that non-physicalized space that connects us between the mysteries of the unmanifest and the mysteries of the non-material spiritual world and our materialized physical world. And so within that, this is also the gateway where all of our blessings pass through as well. Anything that is in our desire and our imagination and the pre-creation state, in pre-production, so to speak, is channeled through this same realm, which is the sacral chakra or the Sphirot of Yasod. And so this is the last dimension that things pass through. This is the portal through which they come through. So the strength of our connection with this portal determines our fluidity and ability to be able to channel blessings, channel insight, information, wisdom, revelation, creativity. All of that flows through that channel. So we need to keep that as pristine and unblocked as possible. And the one thing that will block it very quickly and shut it off completely very quickly is Five of Swords, which is acting in self-interests alone, being selfish, being reactive, being insensitive, being self-serving, thinking what's in it for me. Pretty much like you can have the same product, for instance, or service that's really great and it solves a lot of problems. But if your consciousness is what's in it for me and what's the bottom line, you're going to have a slower path to success than if you're thinking, I want to do anything I can to get this product out there so that it's accessible to the people who need it. And I want to make it, the highest quality, that I can, because I want this to be a real solution, for people. It's like where is your heart at? Where's your consciousness? Are you coming from a consciousness of sharing? Receiving for the sake of sharing, receiving for the greater good, to be a channel of the light so that can pass through you, right? Are you receiving your talents for your own acclaim, or so that you can make goodness and put it out into the world, right? Are you receiving money so that then you can also share some of that and tithe it and do good things with it and support artists and small businesses and spiritual endeavors and, good causes, or are you, you know, hoarding your wealth and not able to share it with others because you're afraid to let go of it, you know, or you just don't want to let go of it, that kind of thing. Like, what are you receiving for? I need to be better about like making a practice of religiously tithing 10% of my income. Like, to me, I feel like peripherally it comes out here and there, but it, like, you really need to make it like an intentional, exactly 10% directed through something that God tells you to do with it, or giving it to a source of spiritual nourishment and support that you receive for yourself. So 5 of Swords, this is like kind of win at all costs kind of energy. It's like, yeah, you got your way and you won, but like at what cost? It's at the expense of others, right? And so this is again the queen here, as she's looking back on her life. She's maybe remembering things and realizing that what she's experiencing now is the summation of many lifetimes. And she's remembering ways that she's done good and that she's created good in the world, but maybe she's also remembering ways that she fell short and maybe brought pain and misfortune or misunderstandings to others as well, and how that has affected her. But overall, in the end, I think we're standing here looking really good because we're a Queen of Pentacles here. And so she is, you know, standing here holding the blooms and the beauty and the bounty of what she's been able to do through her works in this physical world, right? The pentacles represent the material physical world. And so if we are souls being physicalized in this world, in this context, it's representing our ability to take that spiritual transformation and transfer that and transmute that into the way that we behave and act and show up, and the decisions that we make and the choices that we make in this life. All right, you guys, I hope this serves you well, and I hope that this brings you inner peace and fulfillment and abundance, and I hope that we can end pain and suffering. All right, ciao.